Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Freight Marketing Gurus. Today, we've got Jimmy Gibson, VP of Brand Communication at Thrive Agency. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hi, Jenny. Glad to be here. Looking forward to our chat.
I am looking forward to meeting you because this is the first time I think I've ever done a podcast where I didn't know the person going into it, had any conversation. And then it's like, you know what, this is going to be fun. We're just going to, see how this goes. We're going to meet somebody new and hit record.
Awesome. I'm up for it.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself and Thrive Agency.
Yeah. So Thrive Agency, digital marketing agency. We've been around for 20 years, which is kind of a unicorn in the digital marketing space. I started there about 5 years ago to begin the strategy department. We had always done strategy, but it wasn't really a formalized process per se. And yeah, I'm a firm believer if you don't have a plan, you're going to get somewhere really expensive and probably somewhere you don't want to be. So
Yeah, well, really expensive and probably not where you wanted to go.
yeah. So I've been in the agency world my entire career. Well, besides a couple of stints that was in-house for an e-commerce brand, but yeah, just love being able to work with business owners and from mom and pops to large enterprise organizations to help them figure out how to communicate who they are and how they can help their customers.
Absolutely. And where are you located?
The company is out of Arlington, Texas. Most of our team is remote. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina on the coast. So
Oh, nice.
we're in the
Now,
thick
did you
of
get
it.
hit with who just came through, Chantel?
We got a little bit of rain, but it sort of did a little bounce move and went up the coast a little bit. So we
Gotcha.
didn't have too much to worry about. But yeah, it's the place that gets hit quite a bit.
Yeah, I was in Myrtle Beach last week, and then I went to visit my brother at Marine Base Cherry Point in North Carolina, and we left, and that day it just came through. So we got out just in the nick of time.
Yeah, it was the hop skip up to the Myrtle Beach. I'm very familiar with that area. So yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So I like to start with an icebreaker just to kind of loosen things up. So the question you selected was, if you could swap lives with any fictional character for a week, who would it be?
Wow, that was an easy one. Probably Sherlock Holmes. I think it goes back to the whole strategy thing, like being able to see something that somebody else can't. And I used to read the books when I was a kid and just was fascinated. I think it was the mystique of sort of that London era, and then just have him walk into a room or tell something about somebody that is quite obvious, but you don't notice it until he starts to point it out. So I just thought that would be really cool to sort of walk in his footsteps.
Yeah, that is really cool. I was just thinking like how smart he is,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like, he's so smart. He finds all the clues and just like puts it all together and stuff like that. That's awesome. I haven't heard that one yet. That's really cool. So, all right. So when you filled out the form to like lock this in, you had a lot of stuff about magic. And I was like, I haven't quite met Jimmy before. We haven't crossed paths, I believe, but like you really intrigued me with this magic. And like I was like, okay, I need to talk to this guy. Do you have a history in magic?
I'm sorry. I breathed over your question. What was the final part of
Do
it?
you have a background in magic?
I do. It sort of all started when I was a tiny little fella. I was digging through some boxes a couple of years ago and found a little membership card to Merlin's Mail Order Magic Club. And I looked at the date and I was like, that's crazy. I was 4 years old. And so then I got a magic kit when I was 6. And like in middle school, I was like obsessed and I was doing shows. I went to the local print shop and got little business cards printed up. And I was actually doing birthday party shows for my friends' birthdays, and their parents were paying me,
Oh,
which
wow.
was wild. And then in
Yeah.
high school, I was part of a magic organization. They had local clubs, and this guy in the club worked in an ad agency. And he said, hey, we've got a client, pretty big client, international client, that wants to use magic as part of their promotions. And I was like, sure, I'm on board with that. And so I started working for this company in high school while everybody else was sort of working retail or at a fast food restaurant or whatever. I was doing these promotional shows, and that relationship went on for 16 years.
Wow.
And when I was deciding, okay, do I want to go to college? Yeah, probably a good idea. It just hit me that advertising, marketing, and magic are like paired up because of the way you have to capture attention, you have to activate
Yeah.
curiosity, you have to bring it to a close. And yeah, so I've produced shows for theme parks. I had a corporate event that I did at the MGM in Las Vegas. I had a theater in Myrtle Beach, as you mentioned
Wow.
earlier. And I was on TV with the Cake Boss, Buddy Balestro. They were doing a series where he was taking a kind of a tour around the South and learning all the dishes. And so I gave his family a tour at my magic themed tour in Savannah, Georgia. And yeah, it's always been something that has been alongside the magic. I mean, been alongside the marketing. And I think they fed each other pretty well. If I give a
Yeah.
speech or something at a conference, I'll typically do a magic trick. So yeah, it's kind of the lens I see the world through.
That's cool. Marketing by day, magician by night. That's
That's
kind of
good.
been
I'm going to use
the
that.
that's kind of been the lifestyle, right?
It
Because I mean,
has.
you were doing all these magic shows, but you've been doing marketing for a very long time as well. Did you go to
Yeah.
school for marketing?
I did. I went to University of Virginia, but they really didn't have the program I was interested in. So I transferred and went to the University of South Carolina. They had a great advertising school there. And so I minored in graphic design and then majored in creative advertising. It was through their journalism school. And yeah, when I came out, I was just fascinated with everything to do with messaging and marketing and just kind of hit the ground running with all of that.
Yeah, I took communications for my bachelor's and my master's, but somehow landed in marketing. It was like my capstone. I did one class that was online marketing and I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This was like pre, Facebook and stuff like this. I was like on the forefront of how do you use social media for advertising and stuff like that before advertising on social media was a thing.
Oh yeah.
Now
Well,
I show
I
my
hate to
age.
date myself, but when I came out, there were no computers being used in marketing. They were still using typesetting machines that they would run out galleys, and you had to wax the back of them, paste them down on a board, take a picture of them. And so when the computer came along, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you.
This is
So it
amazing.
was kind of a big revolution. I had colleagues who said, oh, the computer's never going to last. And so they kind of became dinosaurs. And I think we've kind of got the same split happening now with AI.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh no, it's gonna, the robots are going to take over. But I think any kind of new technology always gets a little bit of that reaction at the beginning. So maybe we'll get into some of that today.
Yeah. So I want to kind of off script ask, about the trends over the years because when I first came into marketing, we were in the very traditional PR base. Like everything was print, right? We had computers, we were doing digital and things, but I probably came in at the back end of that.
Mm.
And then we moved into the content marketing and every company became a content production company, right? Like everybody's got white papers, everybody's got, landing pages with forms and download this, download that, and everything's gated. And you mentioned like, we're moving into this AI. Did I miss any eras along the way? Or like was it traditional print content?
Yeah, I think probably the era that I came through with the business owners that own the agencies that I worked for were sort of that Mad Men era where
Yeah.
there were three networks and everything was pretty much newspaper, magazine, radio, or TV spot. Maybe some outdoor like billboard or direct mail was very popular. I worked for an agency that also did annual reports, which was typically the biggest marketing brochure for a publicly traded company. And so those were very expensive and fun to
Yeah.
work on. Um, but really, the communication was in the hands of the brand or the platform that they could afford to be on, right? And so there wasn't a lot of ability for a young company, a mom and pop, to really break through and be able to tell their story. And so then, obviously, as the computer happened, the bandwidth wasn't there. So a lot of it was text driven. Um, people didn't think a website would be able to sell a product. And so I think the folks who pushed that early sort of got a head start. I sort of raised my hand as we were getting into that. And
Mhm.
I was like, I want to learn how to do these websites. And they said, great, you're the director of web development. I'm like,
Great, you're
okay.
gonna direct it.
And so, yeah, I just find that if we don't push technology or available resources to help spread our voice, then we're kind of missing out. And there were a lot of companies that were apprehensive about that. So I would say there was probably a pretty long transition period before people really embraced this digital world.
Yeah,
Um, and it wasn't like snap your fingers, it happened overnight. You could kind of see, like you mentioned, getting onto social media. What does that exactly mean? So yeah, I would say with the advent of AI, people are trying to figure it out. Is it the easy button? How do I interact with it? We had Google that transferred over to AI mode in early May, and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm not showing up in these large language model
right?
results. What do I do? Am I invisible? And so it's kind of the wild, wild west again. And
And
there's some
everybody's
things.
changing their search engines. Like,
Mhm.
there's a huge, conversion going over to ChatGPT and Perplexity and, Gemini and all those different things. So how you used to do traditional search, those things those tactics don't necessarily apply the same today, and you've gotta evolve.
Absolutely. And I know there's a lot of people out there losing sleep because they're not sure which direction to turn. So.
Well, Google was like, the creme de la crop, and I'm not saying they aren't anymore, but everybody was like, the Google algorithms, the Google this. Like, there were other search engines, Yahoo, Bing, things like that, but everybody was really focused on Google because everybody, like, most people are Microsoft or Google users.
Right.
And so they go to, those search engines. It's like, oh, the Panda algorithm, this, that, whatever. And it would change your whole SEO strategy, like, oh, you can't do this anymore, or you got to do things differently. And, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and now with the LLMs in place, now you really need to focus on context and answering the questions that people are asking, because that's like, it's funny because people are treating AI like entities. Like, hey, ChatGPT, can you help me find this? Or who's the best for this? Or whatever. It's like it's almost like they treat it like an entity. It's like a person, a helper. Um, not like Chrome. Remember Ask Jeeves? I feel like we're
Yeah.
circling back around. We're back to asking Jeeves.
Yes, that's crazy. I know. Well, that is very perceptive of you, because I think we're used to having a conversation with somebody. And when you can imagine that persona in your head, um, those are usually the best prompts when you can talk to it in that conversational way. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. Ask Jeeves. That's
But
a
like
blast from the past.
right? Right? I'm like, "Oh, this is full circle. We're back to asking Jeeves just on a different
Mhm.
platform." But, GPTs, I create my own GPTs. You give them names, you give them pictures, you can give them styles and tones for how you want them to respond to you, and they become like, oh, and I'll be honest, I've named all mine. I've got Sally. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've literally got names, and I could say, "Hi, Sally. Thank you for helping me find whatever," right?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
Um, and I do treat them that way. I really do.
And
Now,
that's
do you
really cool
venture
that you're able to train them. I mean, we've done that as well for various clients. And um, when you can create that closed environment, then I think you limit the hallucinations that come back. Because I sort of view, people ask, like, how would you describe, and we'll just use ChatGPT. That's probably the most prevalent one people are familiar with. And if we go back to the magic analogy, it's just a really bad mind reader. Um, it doesn't know the context. It's trying to predict how it should answer the question based on all of the information and the context that you've provided it. And obviously, the
yeah,
more context, the better. But I think human guided AI is going to be around for a while. I don't think we're going to turn it over to them to create content, because it also flows back. And I know you talk a lot about this, about expertise and authority and experience and trustworthiness. And that's not going to come out of some interaction.
oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the GPTs and the LLMs are all great for brainstorming, outlines, editing. Like it's almost having like a little marketing coordinator or something. It's like, hey, do this research for me, and then I'm going to formulate it. Hey, copy edit this for me. Okay, this is great, right? Like, it's not like, hey, go do this. This is perfect. Send it off, right? It's
Right.
not there. I don't know if it'll get there just because you need it to understand your brand, your products, your target market, your ethos, your values. Like, I mean, the brand itself has its own personality that like I don't know that, AI has been trained to kind of encompass that as of yet.
Yeah. And I think if you've worked with it a while, you sort of get the sense that it's very polite, it's politically correct, it will not talk about uh, maybe potentially polarizing topics. It won't share the struggles and the scars that you went through in your business. And so you've
Yeah,
got to infuse some of that personality into
like
it.
the emotion,
Um,
right?
oh, yeah, emotion. Yeah.
Emotion, yeah. And we were talking about eras, and I personally feel like we are in the personal brand era. Like this is the podcast where you're putting somebody from the company on the stage, giving them a microphone, giving them human connection, right? Because we're in this era of all this AI, and it's like I just want to talk to a person or I want to connect with a person. We came out of COVID. I still, well, I think I'll always work from home now. But like going to work from home was very isolating. Like, just I work my coworkers are my cat and dog, and I didn't see any people. And I think we're starting to see a lot more brand voices at the individual level coming up, and like the thought leadership is more of having these sorts of conversations versus how they used to do the speaking engagements at the shows. And I'm not saying that's dead, but the speaking engagements at the shows has evolved to like pay to play. And that's been like kind of what I've seen across the board. And that's a game changer because now it's not about the value of the content. It's about you paid for this opportunity to talk and people know that. Right.
Right.
So I do think there's tremendous value in putting the people first. Like this Jimmy and Jennie conversation is meet Jimmy and Jennie, right? And people connect with us and what we're sharing and the wisdom and things like that versus going to the brand social media and posting a blog and just nobody people have lost attention too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you hit on something that I've been talking about recently with our clients. And I had a Forbes article that talked about the struggles that franchise organizations and sort of multi-unit companies that have locations all over are struggling because they've typically been okay with hiding behind a logo and
Yeah.
using that logo as the strength of the brand. And you're absolutely right. In the personal branding phase was never something that somebody sought out to help their personal brand. It sort of felt self-serving. It sort of felt like, oh, that's not me. I don't have any need for that.
Mhm.
But if we overlap that with the results that are coming out of these large language models, again, with the focus with Google on this EAT approach, which is expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness, what that we meant before, that we talked about before, those types of things give shape. And you can call it digital PR, you can call it a footprint that gives more context to the organization. But we work with a number of companies. This particular one just hired a new CMO, and I said, hey, you're here, you've got a huge group of folks that you need to lead from a marketing perspective. What is your first uh, thing that you're going to launch? And she says, we're going to give a personal branding playbook to all of our individual owners and all our executives, because it is a must
Yeah.
when executives step out from behind the logo and speak into their local community, their referrals can increase by 30%. I mean, that's huge.
That's it. That is huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. That is the breadth of any business these days
Yeah.
is relationships. And even even you think about like products and stuff, people are doing like the TikTok videos, like the influencers, right? It is the people that you're putting out there that are like making the sales, creating the opportunities to have conversations. It's not like it's not like before. You don't just post a picture of a product and it sells. Like there's a reason people are on TikToks doing these videos talking about it, because people feel connected to that. Like it's credibility, it's word of mouth. Somebody else likes this. Like marketing has definitely evolved, and this is not just B2C, this is B2B as well. Like this, I mean, this playing field is kind of closing in on, like, you've got B2B companies doing TikToks, right? But you would say that that's more B2C, but I'm not sure that's correct anymore, you know?
Yeah, and I would say it should be encouraging to people who are apprehensive about putting themselves out there,
Yeah.
because it can come out in any form. If you're an introvert, there's ways that you can communicate. You don't have to do a dance video on TikTok. You know, I'm in leadership at a digital marketing company. You're asking me about my past as a magician. That shouldn't be off limits. That should be something that people feel like, oh, I can finally be myself. I don't have to get into this marketing speak and sound plastic, which is what's going to happen if you hit the easy button on ChatGPT to write a blog post for you.
Yep.
You should infuse your personality, because people are going to be, if you're passionate about something, it's infectious, right? People are going to feed off of that, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, I never knew that this owner of this company, or this executive at this company, or this frontline employee did this. I have a TED talk about using your personal abracadabra. And if every company activated the personal abracadabra of everybody within that company, imagine how attractive that company would be. And if you love to bake cookies and that is your passion, perhaps they need to be in the lobby of that business. And when somebody walks in and sits down and waits, you go, oh, you know, Susan back in purchasing, her passion is cookies, and she wanted you to have this cookie today. What is the change in that mindset of that person who's visited that organization and go, wow, number one, this is an awesome cookie. Number two, how cool is it that they let her bake her cookies and put them in the lobby? And so I think, you know, brands can just look across their whole team and go, you know, what are people passionate about? Get involved in local charities, have a committee or something that can get involved in the community. You know, we do that at Thrive. We actually track giving and volunteer hours as a metric that we report on every month. And we have a matching program. If, you know, somebody's a writer, go write for a nonprofit and help them build their website or write a blog. If you're a designer, go design a logo for a startup that's struggling, you know, those types of things. And those are things, when you're having trouble talking about stuff on social media, like, just do a couple of those things and you'll never run out of ideas that are pure and passionate and authentic and heartwarming, right?
100%. Yeah. 100%. I was going to ask, what is the magic script? Like, how are we combining magic and marketing at Thrive? What is the magic script?
Well, I guess as I was going through my career, I just sort of automatically saw the lens of doing a campaign through this lens of a performance. And I talked earlier about mapping that to the structure of a magic trick. And so somebody asked me a while ago, could you explain that a little further? And I went, wow, let me try to reverse engineer that. And so the magic script is basically a framework that is based on 3 phases. And the 3 phases are connection, curiosity, and conversion. And so it's really how a magician captures attention and guides an audience through a journey, which is the same thing that we do in a marketing message. And so it does activate brain chemistry. So the connection point releases oxytocin, which is that sort of connection, like love neurotransmitter that, like, you're like, hey, we're having a good conversation. How can we make this go further? That type of thing. And so you don't go for the sale right off the bat, right? And so once you've got that connection point, then you need to activate curiosity. And so that curiosity phase is actually a release of dopamine. And we've heard about, you know, people addicted to social media and they're addicted to dopamine. It's not really addicted to dopamine. It's actually addicted or the expectation of a reward. So when you post something, you want somebody to like it, you want them to
Yep.
share it, you want them to comment, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But what you're doing is you're opening up a loop that requires closure. And so that closure is that connection or conversion point. The conversion gives them that next step. It's the culmination of the magic trick, whatever that is. And that's a release of serotonin, which is the feel good, oh, everything's right with the world sort of thing. So in a marketing sense, it's like, oh, okay, they get me. I understand what they're talking about. Yes, let me fill out this form or schedule an appointment or whatever the case may be. In a magic trick, it's the person floats in the air, the magician guesses the card, that type of thing. And so I didn't want it to be this sort of floating out there approach. So if you take every magic trick and boil it down, there's 13 different types of effects in magic. So it can be a production, a vanish, a transformation, mind reading. And so you sort of have 13. I've tried to break it. I've tried to figure out some message that doesn't fall within one of those 13. And I've yet to figure out something outside of those 13.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a brief overview, but I mean, we can take it a
It's
little bit
fascinating that there's like a science to the magic. Not that like that's unexpected, but like to think that there's 3 steps and then 13 tricks. And it's like, oh, like this is like, I don't know, like compartmentalized, like you break it down in these chunks. Like, I guess when you go to a magic show or see a trick, you like, I understand experiencing the connection, curiosity, and closure, but I don't think you realize those stages, right? It's just a flow. It's just, oh, this feels good and I like this and it's over.
You want to try something right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. So Jenny, you said you work from home. So are you in a condo? Are you in a home with a neighborhood? Tell me a little bit about where you live.
I'm in a home with a neighborhood.
All right.
One more.
You said that you had some pets. Do you have cats, dogs?
I have a cat and a dog.
Oh, dog. Do you take your dog on walks?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Or do you walk by yourself?
Oh, that one sometimes too.
Okay. Let's take a little walk in your neighborhood. If you
Okay.
want to take a walk in your neighborhood, there's probably a path that you like to take, but there may be some roads that you don't normally turn down. Is that fair?
Sure.
Okay. Let's turn down one of those roads that you normally don't turn down. All right.
Okay.
Maybe you've noticed some of the houses, but there's one in particular that it's kind of a little bit fuzzy in your mind, but you could picture it in your mind right now. Do you have one?
That's on a road I don't go on often?
Yeah, but you've seen it. Maybe you've driven by it, but
Okay, sure.
that one? Okay. Maybe the audience can play along and they can kind of visualize what we're about to do right now. So you're standing on the road and you're looking up at this house and the front door is open. And you thought, oh, that's kind of weird. I wonder what's going on there. And so you look and you kind of lean back a little bit, and in the entranceway, like past the threshold of the door, there's like this stick of wood and it's leaning up against the wall, I guess, where the light switch might be or something. And it's not like a little stick. It's kind of like a big stick, almost like a club or, something like that. And you think to yourself, oh my gosh, did somebody break into this house using that stick? Or are they getting robbed? Like, what's going on? Okay, that's one scenario.
Okay.
The next scenario is you sort of look into that door and it's just sort of that warm vibe that kind of happens in the late afternoon. And you go, wow, it kind of feels like they're having a party or they're getting ready for some guests. You know what? I bet they left that door open because some family and friends are going to stop by and they know them well enough that they're just going to walk in and, head to the back porch where they've got some refreshments out. So that's option 2. The next option is you're standing there and you're looking at the front door, but all of a sudden your attention is drawn over to a tree to your right. And you're like, that's weird. There's a shovel leaned up against that tree. What in the world? There's all these weird holes dug in the yard. What in the world? This is like the worst gardener ever, or they got interrupted and they've run back in the house. I don't know what's going on. That's another option. The last option is it's actually a morning walk, and the way the sunlight is coming in that front door that's open, they have this beautiful polished wood floor, and oh my gosh, it's very inviting. It's like that floor is glowing like diamonds, just sparkling. And you're like thinking to yourself, how in the world did they get that floor so sparkly? But that is really cool looking. So we've got this stick of wood leaned up against the door. We've got the door open. Maybe some guests are coming. We've got the shovel leaned up against the tree. And then we've got this floor that the light is hitting it just right. Which one of those feels right to you?
The floor.
The end? Floor?
The floor is sparkling.
Nice, nice. Well, you're very intrigued by this floor. And so you start to go up the front sidewalk and you notice there's some steps. There's actually 13 steps that go up to the porch before you're able to walk across the porch and go on that door. But you have just got to get a closer look. What step do you get to out of that 13 before somebody yells out, hey, what are you doing?
One.
Okay. So what the heck is all this about?
I don't know.
Very interesting. So the audience out there may have been thinking about some different things, but if I turn my chair, there's actually a deck of cards that's been sitting here the whole time. I'll keep this in frame. What you didn't actually know is I turned a card a weird way in this pack before we even started. And so I gave you 4 options: a club leaning up against the door, that's the club; the door open with friends and family, that's love or a heart; the shovel leaning against the tree, that's a spade; or the floor sparkling like diamonds, that's the diamonds, the 4 suits in a deck of cards. And then it said there's 13 steps as we go up to the porch. And I said, how many steps do you get up before somebody yells out, hey, what are you doing? You said 1. So if we use the ace as 1, there's 13 cards all the way up to the king. So that would mean the card that you subconsciously selected was the ace of diamonds. So if I open up this deck of cards, pull them out, let's see here. Oh, this is kind of strange. Oh, wait a minute. There is one card that's reversed. That would be really weird.
I mean,
Ace of diamonds.
all right, take my money. Take my money. That's awesome. That's a really cool trick. And like, I love the journey that we went on to get through, like, to do that trick.
So let's break that down.
Card. Oh, there it is. You know, it was a whole journey, a whole story, and it was captivating.
So that's how our marketing should be. We've lost that magic. We've lost that wow. And so if we just break that down into the 3 phases, right? So we just talked about where you lived. I asked if you had cats or dogs. I asked if you were in a neighborhood. Like, people love talking about themselves, right? And so that was very egocentric to be like, wow, this is kind of cool. And so that was that connection point. And so I didn't get the right to move to the next phase and take you on a journey until there was some context and until we talked about taking a walk. Now, I knew where I wanted to go, right? I knew that we were going to go on that walk, but I had to understand.
You had to get me to go on that walk.
Yeah. If I ask you, you know, if I didn't ask you where you lived, you might be on a 25-foot or 25 floor high rise. And when I say walk out your front door and walk down the street into your neighborhood, you're going to go, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm in a house. And so there's the disconnect, right? So I have to learn more about you.
Right.
And then I'm activating curiosity. And so there was quite a bit of stuff going on. You know, the theater of the mind is great. You were probably picturing your neighborhood, and maybe you couldn't quite make out the house, but as I started to describe it, each of those scenes, you were able to visualize. And, you know, I would say the people who are listening probably thought about someplace different, right? Because it's different to them.
Yeah.
So I gave you just enough, but I didn't prescribe it to the point where I was interfering with your ability to imagine what was going on. And then I could have kept that going for another few minutes, but after a while, you're going to go, what is he doing? Like, okay,
Get to the point.
there's no payoff here. This is kind of getting
Right.
boring and a little bit weird, right? And so if I didn't get to the payoff pretty quickly, I would lose your attention. And so I moved into, and then all of a sudden I slowly started to connect the dots about a card. That's a typical thing that a magician would do, right? A card trick. But you're exactly right. One of the things you said at the end was, you didn't just tell me to name a card and pull it out of the deck. There's this whole other thing. And so if you repeat this story later on, you're not going to say, Jimmy had me think of a card and he pulled it out of the deck, or it was turned
Right.
upside down. You're going to go, oh my gosh, it was this really cool thing, and we went on this walk, and da 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 da. And that's what
Well,
that's what you
experience.
want your audience to talk about, right? You want them to be able to share a story. You want them to have some emotional connection to it. I still got to the same place, right? And so, if I would say the effect that I chose was mind reading or a prediction, and it was kind of a fun little journey. And so I would say that's just a simple way that you can talk with a client about, you know what, we've lost the wow. If you're on LinkedIn, you get a friend request or a connection request, and what happens 5 seconds later? There's some automated response that they put in some sort of bot that wants to sell you something. And you're sitting there going, I don't even know who you are. I don't even know why you think I need this, right? And so that's what we need to think about. And so, I know you work with a lot of logistics and freight companies. And so if we take it down to that area or industry, the connection point is they need to feel like that you're in their head. And so the connection part could be something like, you shouldn't have to wake up wondering where your freight is, or if it even left the dock last night. If your inbox is full of checking on this emails and your spreadsheets are older than your coffee, it's time for a new playbook. And so the person on the other end of that is like, yeah, I try to keep track of everything in my spreadsheet. And yeah, I am worried that my freight isn't getting there. And so now you want to activate that curiosity. And so say something like, our clients don't just check in, they get told before they ask. Our platform flags potential delays before they hit, auto updates your team, and reroutes around the mess. It's just like having a personal dispatcher who sees the future.
Yeah, but I would tell you, I love all the things you're saying, but I would say there's so much value in you saying it and seeing you versus getting an email that's like, oh, we connected on LinkedIn. Like, and I know you said like, oh, we connected on LinkedIn and you're already going in for the sale, so you're not doing that. But there's just, you telling that story. I'm connecting with you, and it's like now I'm interested, right? But I think we also have to think of the channels, right? Like, this is not throw this in an email, because the breaking through the noise, I think, is the hardest part of marketing, because as I said earlier, every company turned into a content production company. Like everybody's like, oh, I've got white papers and blogs and social and emails, and everybody's like, subscribe to me and we're going to blast you 4 times a week. And it's like, there's so much noise that, I love all the things you're saying, but I love that they're all coming from you, and I see you and I'm connecting with you versus, maybe another channel that you use to deliver. It might be an awesome story, but I think, you got to think about that delivery too. I think that's part of the magic.
Oh, absolutely. And what folks may not know, on LinkedIn, if we're talking about LinkedIn, you can actually record a video message on your phone and send that as a DM. And so somebody sent one to me, and you don't think I'm not going to open that? So I'm intrigued. I've given permission to my thumb to hit that, right?
Yeah, and you're doing something that not everybody's taking advantage of. So,
but when I hear that message, if it lands flat or if it's very pushy, then you've betrayed the connection or the opening that you just created. And so you have to be careful with that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I love magic. I love all the things. I remember watching the shows as a kid. I feel like you don't see them so much these days, like on TV. But I feel like as a kid, I used to watch all the shows, and then like they do behind the scenes and tell you, and it'd be like, they literally just had a box with an extra, it's always something that was like, that was so easy, but it looks like it's kind of that sleight of hand or that story, that journey, that distraction that's really taking place. That's the trick, like someone super slick. I don't know. That's just my opinion, Jimmy. You've been in this industry a lot longer than me, and you're like, oh no, there's so much more to it. But I was always disappointed. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. But I mean, you would never know because the magician was just so good about getting your attention over here while this is happening over. I have no idea how you turn the ace of diamonds. If it was turned before the conversation, if you actually, like, I don't know. I'll tell you, I took one step because that the house has 3 large German shepherds that have an invisible fence. I'm like, I am not going up those steps.
Oh, interesting. See, there's always a backstory.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I don't know if he knows the background here, but there's 3 big German shepherds and they have an invisible fence and they come all the way to the road. So I avoid that street. So yeah, I was like, that's
context.
Yeah. All right. So let's go back to AI. So how is AI like impacting your go-to-market strategies today?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of things. We have interactions with clients that are using and are familiar with it, but they think, as I mentioned before, it's the easy button. And so we say, hey, would you like us to write the copy for your website? Oh, no, I can do that. And then you obviously see that it comes back as AI written, and we have to go through a little bit of coaching. Yeah. We can all recognize some of the phrasing. I would say again, the human guided approach, whether we're working with a client to help them figure that out. We have a staff of writers that obviously interact with AI for the reasons that are in the ways that you mentioned, related to doing some outlines, getting ideas for content calendars, those types of things. The other thing that I think is happening behind the scenes is AI being able to automate certain tasks, and the connection with Zapier or other tools that allow systems to talk to each other. And so typically somebody moving data from one area to another is a very exciting way to use it in its best form. And so you see this a lot. Obviously, a lot of the ad platforms or social platforms have AI components to them, whether you want to find your best audience through their algorithm. Sometimes I believe that on a paid platform, they're trying to figure out how they can spend your budget the most. But yeah, I would say repetitive functions that, whether it's internal operations or from a marketing standpoint, to be able to gather and evaluate data. Many of us have call recordings that we use to not have to take notes, and then it can summarize what that call is and outline the action items, those types of things.
The Otter is on right now.
Yeah.
I put the Otter on, and then I get the transcripts from this. I can, then turn that into the blog, identify areas of conversation for great clips. Like the Otter is great. Otter is wonderful.
Yeah. And so I would say one of the things, because you're hosting this call and because you've had this conversation, you're going to be able to identify, just like Sherlock Holmes, whether it's giving you truthful information or if it's sort of filling in the gaps. And so I think when you have a high level of experience within whatever, you're great at. So if you're an organic social specialist and you know the brand very well, you're able to call out the hallucinations or the false information that it's giving you and challenge the interaction with the chat to have it produce something better than what you thought. If you're just a beginner and you're trying to make it do the work for you, I would say that's a recipe for disaster, because if you pass something along, it could cause some communication to get out that's not actually factual or true or relevant to the brand. I was talking with a potential client the other day, and I was asking that question: how are you using AI in your business? And so this was a local home service provider. They have an HVAC company within a certain area. They have like 3 different offices, and so his
Sure.
team had cloned his voice to send out to customers to talk about, updating or doing an inspection or a follow-up after an appointment, that type of thing. Well, I've been playing around with cloning my voice, and anybody that knows me is easily identified that that's not really my voice. And so I think we can make it, there's certainly the ability to make it do things, but if somebody on the other end of that voicemail goes, that doesn't sound like Joe, what are they using some robot or some fake voice? Like, that can
Yeah.
actually hurt your brand. And so I think we just have to evaluate every touch point and go, is this appropriate? Is it saving time, or am I trying to get it to do something that I really shouldn't be trying to get it to do right now?
Yeah. I think the streamlining, cutting costs, saving time, those things make sense, but you still need the human connection with other humans, and you still need the human connection with the content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see AI taking over our jobs anytime soon. I think it brings evolution, which is necessary. And I think, when we go into a new era, I think personal brand then comes even that more important, because people are going to be like, I am so tired of AI. I just want to talk to a person. Like, I can tell you, I am tired of trying to get a hold of AT&T. I just want to talk to a person. I just want to talk to a person. I don't care what I got to do. But so I think, we'll see personal brand continue to strengthen in importance. And I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the new generation, because some of them, like, I picture my kids, and when they were super little, they used to play LOL dolls and pretend like they were talking to their audience. So
Oh,
I
wow.
feel like they're almost, trained for this, but at the same time, now that they're teenagers, they don't do nothing but this. This is how they communicate. So I'm like, what is this going to look like? It'll be interesting to see. It's been interesting to kind of see this evolution, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with that generation when they come up. Have you created a GPT of yourself yet?
I have actually created one. I actually created one for the Magic Script, and you were
Yeah.
talking earlier about how you named yours. So I gave mine the persona of a magic genie that you sort of rub the magic lamp, and it's very snarky. It has a sense of humor. It asks you questions. I wanted to be entertaining as well as helpful. And so it was a lot of fun to develop that and to make sure I was updating it appropriately and trying
Yeah.
to break it.
Now, do you
And
share that as part of your marketing? Like, do you share that out to people? Like, what would
yeah,
Jimmy say?
I'd be happy to share a link with the listeners if they want to play around with
Yeah.
it and try it out. I think it would be fun.
Yeah, if you send me the link, I'll put it in the social channels and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pop it up here. I've never done that. But yeah, if you share that with me, you'll be able to find it in the notes section on the social media. So now, even though you've shared tremendous insight and great ideas around storytelling and the journey and engagement and authenticity and trustworthiness and all those things that just really resonate with me and I love, I'm going to ask you to share some secret sauce. I'm sure you
Uh-oh.
got more. So the secret sauce is something that can make somebody else successful. It could be a piece of advice that you've heard, something that you just like live by, but not like necessarily common knowledge.
Oh, wow. Okay. Um, so I'll share something that was taught to me in a way that was rather alarming. I was invited to be part of some training in Montreal with a Broadway director who was also a magician. About 8 or 10 of us went up for a week and we trained. And he had us do this exercise where everybody else who was in the group was sitting there, and he wanted us to step up on a stump. And this was about 20 feet away from the rest of the group. So just imagine a small group of about 10 people, and I'm
Okay.
standing on a stump. And basically, he just said, I want you to tell me your name, your address, what your phone number is, where you live, a little bit about your town. And so I jumped up on the stump, and, as part of my performing background, I started to talk to this audience. And He said, okay, thank you. And the next person jumped up on the stump. And we're all looking at each other going, what is he looking for? Is he want to know how loud we can talk, or like, do we enunciate better? Like, what's going on? And we all finished. And so he got up there and then he did it. And so when he did it, he took a look at each person individually. And so he started with me and he says, hi, my name is Bob Fitch. And he smiled and he paused and then he looked at the next person. I live in Manhattan, New York, and I live on Fifth Avenue. And he paused and he smiled and he looked at the next person. And he says, I love cooking. In fact, Italian is my favorite dish. Lasagna is my specialty. And we all looked at each other and we went, we all failed. We were trying to talk to this group of 10 people. We weren't looking at each person individually. And we weren't taking time to pause, smile, get the reaction from their face. And so I think anytime you're communicating with somebody, what is your intention? Or is your intention just to get the words out of your mouth? Or is your intention to actually make a connection and to impact that person by just a small little piece of information? And so that stuck with me. That was probably 20 years ago. And yeah, I would say that's something that I learned the hard way of being in front of a group of other people, but I learned it from an expert. And if I could pass that along, maybe that's something somebody else could use.
No, I think that's actually awesome. I remember taking public speaking classes in college, and you're standing there, you got your little paper clip in your hand for your fidgeting, right? And it's just about projecting and talking to everyone. But the insight that you share is very, I don't know if intriguing is the right word, but the point is like connect with everyone in the room, have intention. Like if you just go in to speak, what did you accomplish? But if you go in to make that connection, and this is easier said than done, right? Some people really struggle with public speaking. But now you want to look people in the eyes and speak to them and have the words flow and move to the next person and connect to the next person. Like it's easier said than done, but it's an awesome skill set to have, because people are going to remember you. People are going to connect with you. You'll probably be more successful in whatever your endeavor is going into that room and speaking to those people.
Yeah. And I would say if you could get there early and wander around and talk to some people and ask them about themselves, and then you can call them out during the presentation. And you can do the same thing across Zoom. If you're on a Zoom call and you get there early, don't just sit there flipping through your email. Pick somebody out and say, hey, we've never met before. Where do you live? Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
And it's just that little comfort level. And then through the conversation that you have, then you can mention that. And even if you're giving an update on some kind of business conversation, go, oh yeah. And I'm sure, Susan, that means something to you because you're on the East Coast and we have this situation going on the East Coast or whatever. Yeah. And just that little break, not only grounds you, but it grounds the rest of the people that you're talking to.
Yeah. It demonstrates that your audience too. Like you talk to them, you've collected information and you can, tie it together. So That's awesome. I love that. I loved this conversation. It was so much fun. And I'm glad that this worked out. I was like, okay, a magician? Yes. Tell me pay less.
You're going to show up in a powder blue tuxedo and be really weird.
Are you going to do magic tricks now? Okay. I got to ask, what is your best, like badass magic trick?
Well, this one, I've always wanted to do it. I saw a magician one time walk on a bed of glass, and I thought that is what I've got to do. And so I collected bottles for 6 months. My wife went away on a business trip, and I said, she's going to freak out if she knows I'm practicing this.
That was my time.
And so I had my phone, I pressed 9-1 in case I had to push that other that one for 911, but it all worked out. I performed it at an event that was coming up, in the future. And
now, is there magic to that, or is it just like your balance? Like, is there a trick?
Secrets, Jenny? I could tell you,
Well,
but
now
then
I
I'd
need
have
to know before I go back on the broken glass. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Could you please share with the audience how they can connect with you?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn. I post a video every day, Monday through Friday. So I just teach some sort of tip. Go ahead
Oh,
and
that's fun.
let me know that you heard me on this interview with Jenny, and be happy to have a little chat with anybody who ever wants to learn more about me and how,
A
you know,
magic
just
of marketing.
magic and marketing. Yeah. And then Thrive Agency is just like it sounds. We have a lot of good articles on there. And if anybody needs any help with digital marketing, would love to have a chat with you on that as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jimmy.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Absolutely.